This is Omar Miller, and you're watching the Three-Point Conversion.
Well, I'm curious what you're seeing right now out of Natasha Howard. Obviously, not the game that you typically would expect from her, but just in sort of the broader picture.
She's not ready. She's not moving right. She's just not herself yet.
Do you have a sense from the doctors as to when that will be? You kept her out there in the final few minutes, I would imagine, to help get her reps. What do you think, and what's the process and the plan for that?
We just gotta try to get her to play through it and hope that she can get back to herself. She's just not quite there yet. So she's clear. There's nothing wrong physically, but anybody who's had an injury, a contact injury in particular, would understand that it's scary. It's scary to go into the paint. It's scary to get knee-to-knee contact. And I think that could be part of it. But it's very clear that she's still not moving the way that we've seen her move.
Right. Couple things. The first quarter, there was 15 for 20 from the floor. Is that a combination of them being hot in defense, or what did you think went wrong there?
I thought we were awful. I thought that was the worst defensive quarter I've ever seen us play. Our energy was awful. Our pride was non-existent. There's no fix for that.
In the big picture, you come out of this more discouraged, or
I come out of it dumbfounded. I'm dumbfounded at our lack of a sense of urgency when it's all we talk about. It's all we work on. To come out the way that we start third quarters, the way that we start first quarters, so many of these games, it's really frustrating. I'm really frustrated because it's controllable. They have the tools, they have the capacity to do it. They just chose not to in the first quarter. They just chose not to.
I want to ask you, Coach, a little bit about Dee, because she was 4 for 5 from 3. And so what I want to know is, where was she with her shot and her confidence in the training camp? And how exactly did she get to a point where she can go 4 for 5?
She works really hard. She put in a lot of time with Dustin. She's put in a lot of time on her own. She's a confident person in general. I think, she plays with a lot of people who infuse her with confidence. She knows we trust her to take shots. Dee was fantastic again. She was one of our bright spots.
And I'm just looking big picture too. What does Dee playing like this mean for the future of this team?
I mean, she's another really versatile, athletic, multi-positional player. The really strong work ethic and a lot of tenacity in game and on court. So, players like her, Jazz, Jocelyn, they're really, really valuable players. And a lot of it's mental. A lot of it's that they're just really, really determined people.
Thanks, Coach. I appreciate it. Coach, same opponent later this week. Any thoughts on how or if and how you can shake things up to get the result that you'd like from your team?
They just need to execute. They didn't. The times that they executed defensively, the game plan, they got stops, but then they give up an offensive rebound. I thought Shelly Scout was really good. I honestly did. I thought that when we did it, it was really solid. Turner destroyed us. I mean, she just absolutely destroyed us. She was front and center in the scout. She was front and center in pregame talk about how when the offense stalls, she goes and gets a cut or an offensive rebound or a transition layup. You can't let her do that. She had 15 rebounds on us. We talked about not letting her get behind us. She got behind us almost every possession. So the frustration comes from the fact that they know, our players know, they know what they needed to do and they just didn't do it. And they're more than capable of doing it. So the frustration isn't a lack of capability, a lack of, well, I just wish we were better. No, we're good enough right now. We're good enough right now to win this game and the last game. And we didn't, because we didn't want it as badly as the other team did.
Miles.
Hey, Coach. In that first quarter, Phoenix seemed to thrive in transition and in the paint. You were able to recover and slow down their pace a bit in the second quarter, but they already had a large double-digit lead at that point. What changed on the defensive end that helped you start to claw back into the game and get back into it for most of the rest of it?
Odds are pretty high that we put Didi in. That's probably what changed, because Didi got the ice on. Didi executed the defensive game plan. She brought the energy we needed. I think Benijah turned on. They just tried and they focused. Unlike in the first quarter, they just were more themselves, but there were still lapses left and right, just silly mistakes, tired mistakes. I don't know what they were, but you know, I told him the other day, you know, when my parents, they love me. I know they love me to death, but they are really frustrated with me because they know I'm better than what I'm showing. That's what I feel like right now. I love them to death, but man, am I frustrated.
And tonight, Phoenix's big three combined for 74 of their 106 points. Throughout the year, you've talked about trying to limit some aspect of an opponent's game, but tonight, that with that trio's combination of skill, nothing seemed to be working. What can you game plan for Friday to try and slow down that trio, assuming that Griner's back in there?
It's like I said, if we would have executed consistently on the coverages in pick and roll, people not getting cross-matched, guarding the correct people so that we're not in those mismatches. You know, Griner's one thing. I mean, she's just fantastic. I mean, her touch, I thought we did some really probably some of our best doubles of the year, and she scored right through them. Timing was perfect. We stayed straight up. She's just really good. You know, you can't let Diana have open transition threes. You can't let Skylar have open transition threes and, you know, just walk into the paint for layups. You know, our attention to detail was really poor for long stretches, multiple times in the game. And that's why, you know, we gave up 57% shooting and 106 points.
Thank you so much.
Jeff Magliochetti.
Coach, you touched on it before, but I wanted to ask about the not only the doubles on Griner in the paint, but the 12 minutes that Kylie Shook had. How do you think Kylie handled herself against Griner tonight, especially compared to her matchups with her last year?
She didn't execute the game plan a couple of times and got burned for it, but she had some really solid minutes. You know, Kylie needs to get mean. She needs to get mean. She needs to get physical. She needs to get aggressive. She's so capable. She's so damn capable on both ends. She's so solid. She's just a sweet person. And it's really hard to get her to be mean and physical. Like, you know, a lot of the players that play against her are, because they'll throw her to the ground in a heartbeat. You know, and she's got to get some of that to her.
Fair enough. And what do you tell the team after a game like that? And how do you get them fired up to get in an instant chance for redemption on Friday night?
I don't think it's about talking right now. We're beyond the point of this being about adjustments, or we didn't do anything that we've worked on all year. So they need to show up and care and try and want it more than the other team. The games that they do that, they're in it to the end of their win. And the games that they don't, it looks like this. So we can't have starts like that. It's one thing to miss open shots. That happens. You get good looks. I thought we were getting good looks during that stretch. Our defense was atrocious. Transition layups. The time for talking is done. So we'll watch the entire game tomorrow as a team. And then it's on them to show up.
Appreciate your time and insight, Coach. Thank you.
Thanks, Coach. Next up, we have Benija.
Give me a second, I'll put it on. I look fat on this camera.
You got like belly rolls.
Hmm?
You got like belly
You saw
rolls.
that?
No, I see it. I don't saw it. I see it.
Oh my goodness.
I'm gonna
Straight up like this. You see that?
Question for Elijah, for the coach came in, he talked about his frustration over questions of effort. What was the locker room like, and what do you think is the key to finding a different result from Friday night?
Yeah, we talked about how everybody felt in the locker room. Seeing me and Jazz gave their 2 cents, having a different perspective from not being on the floor. But it's just the same thing that we kind of been talking about, just finding a way to sustain, finding a way to punch back, finding a way to come out with, I don't think it's necessarily the energy, but just energy that's directed towards what we have to do, so just finding a way to stay locked in and focused on each and every task, the little things, I think will help us go further and give us more success.
And just to follow, if I could, with the 3-point shooting tonight, obviously we discussed a little bit pregame, but was there an added layer of confidence in your shot tonight that led to you not just hitting for it, but the fact that you were such a willing shooter tonight?
Oh, sorry.
Did he say Diddy or
I don't
Rebecca?
know. I don't know. I thought he was looking at me.
He
said Diddy.
Oh,
I was gonna say I didn't make that.
Honestly, I mean, it's the confidence aspect, but it's also the fact that, I mean, I'm the best shot we're gonna get on the court if they're leaving me wide open, and I think B makes that known in practice. When I catch the ball, it's like, Didi, you're wide open. Like, either you're gonna put it up or you're gonna go to the basket. So I mean, I think that's kind of my mindset going in every game right now.
Brian? When you go off set, a difficult game like this, how concerned are you going forward that you're not going to reach the goal?
I mean, obviously, that's the goal and it's a thought, but I think right now the most important thing for us to do is really just focusing on taking it game by game, step by step, to not get too far ahead of ourselves, not thinking big picture right now. I think that we really need to just focus on what's in front of us. Because I think we've been kind of doing that, like, oh, we got to do this and pressure that. But if we take care of what's in front of us, that will happen. So it's just focusing on, like I said, the things that are going on right now. That means making sure that tomorrow that we're getting in, we're recovering, we're preparing for this next game. We take care of this game, and then we take care of the next game, and just doing the little things that are right in front of us that will help us get to our ultimate goal. So just not focusing on that, even though that is in the back of our minds. Like, we know that's what we want, that's where we want to be, but right now it has to be more about the little things, the what's right in front of us.
Yeah, right. So for Benija, when we just spoke to Coach, he talked a bit about Kylie, and he sort of said that, she needs to get mean when she's playing the post, against some of these people, and you as someone who is super tough and super competitive, I guess, what type of counseling do you think we can give to her, someone who's super skilled about just, I guess, being a bit meaner on the court?
I mean, it's just, I can tell her as much as I want to, Walt can tell her as much as he wants to, but I think, just toughness and stuff, it comes from within, so it's not anything for me to say. I think like she'll be fine. It may not be that's her nature to just want to hit somebody or anything like that, but I think that she'll be fine. She'll get to the point where that's something that she feels that she needs to do and wants to do, and then that's what it'll be.
And so, thank you, I appreciate that, and the backstory.
Sure.
So Walt told us pregame that, y'all needed someone to make Sammy's threes, so that was you. And so I'm curious as to what your goals were earlier this season that got you here, where you could have an evening, where you could go 4 for 5 from 3.
My goals this season and like in the W was to kind of perfect and build my offensive side of the ball. I mean, I think everyone knows that I feel like I got drafted because of defense. So it was just about adding the other aspect of the game to my game, which was offensively. And I think Dustin has done a good job staying with me in the gym, and Griffin rebounding. I've had them in there for some hours, and me kicking the ball and throwing the ball down the court, getting angry. But I think it's, it's paying off, and I think it's showing. I'm just hoping that we as a team keep building collectively and applying it to the game and, winning more games, basically.
And back for you, you've seen Dee develop and grow. I'm curious from your perspective, as a player like this, what she could mean, in the future of this organization.
I think it's just great seeing someone working on their game every day. I think that it motivates people around them as well. I don't think she realizes the impact that by her doing that extra work has on everyone else around her. And you see it when she comes into the game, just this energy player. And again, it builds others around her too. So, I mean, I've loved seeing how much you've grown already, like in a short space of time, in a really short space of time. And being able to hit that shot from 3 is you're making players having to come out and guard you like that. And then you've got your rip drive too. So yeah, she's a player to continue watching, just growing for the rest of this season and the next.
Thanks,
Mm.
Erica? Natasha just talked about focusing, not so much big picture, but looking at smaller parts of the game, elements of the season. How do you think that translates, or how would you like that to translate, looking at the 4-quarter breakdown and what you can improve on Friday?
Exactly. Everything is little details. It's knowing your personnel, who you're guarding. It also comes down to what your preparation before the game, your recovery after the game. It's every little thing, and it comes down to play phases, how we're executing an offense, how we're executing defensive principles, on-ball defense, all of that. So it is going to be the little things that we're going to need to lock into and fast for this next game that's around the corner.
And Dee, for you, before the game, we got to speak to Taurasi, and she actually, from a prompt from Jackie, said that she spoke to the team, and one of the things that she reminded the team was that when she was here with New York, that even those that were not from New York embraced and took on the culture and grit and the heart of the city. Just when you heard that, what were some of the things that translated for you in your experience here with the Liberty?
First off, I thought it was very inspiring. When she got up there and spoke, I think she had the whole crowd's attention at that point. But I think I took from what she said was just to have, a different type of mindset, a different kind of heart, like you said, grit on the court. It's definitely a different swag when you're from New York or you're playing in New York. It's a different kind of brag, and it's just being able to come out there and show it whenever you're out there. And I think that's the one thing that stuck with me is that when you're out there, stop letting people hit you. You hit first or things like that. I think our team kind of needs that kind of New York swag and grit, as T-Spin would say.
Great. Thanks, everyone. Next up, we have Liberty Ring of Honor member Crystal Robinson.
Or one of the first things that you think about is the fans. We had a group of fans when I played that had our numbers tattooed on them. They had the Liberty logo tattooed on them. They're definitely a major part of it. But just probably what was going through my mind is all of the moments that I spent with my teammates. For me, it ain't about winning and losing. It's about the battles that we fought together and the way we chose to stick together in the fashion that we chose to win in. And I think that we were a team that worked really extremely hard and expected a lot from each other and held each other to complete high standards. And just being a part of that and being able to be back here and see those people again was probably the biggest rush of adrenaline for me, more so than getting the ring. The ring is great, but seeing my ex-teammates was the icing on the cake.
And just related to that, you spoke about New York State of Mind in your speech. Is there a moment that sticks out to you, even above the rest, with your teammates that exemplified that New York State of Mind for your time here?
Many moments. I think that in New York, it's hard to beat a New Yorker. New Yorkers adapt and learn and grow really fast. And I think our team emulated that. If we took a loss, we came back to the drawing board and everybody was willing to work as hard as they possibly work. It didn't matter if you played 38 minutes a game or 2 minutes a game. The next practice, you knew it was going to be all out. And I think that's what kept us competing at a really high level, because the accountability. Coquise Washington would come to practice and say, I don't care if you're tired, I'm not taking it easy on you. So every day we had to keep our level of play risen or you got embarrassed in practice. Yeah, you're welcome.
How much have you watched this version, this Liberty team, and what's your impression?
I've watched them a lot. I watched the Liberty throughout the years. I think, you know, if you have Liberty in your blood, you don't go away. Even though I played for other team, coached for other teams and been on other staffs, I spend a lot of time. I have a vested interest in how well New York does, because in my opinion, I've represented New York and they represent us, the players that came before. So I guess that's how I would answer that.
Hey, Crystal, congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Very touching to listen to what you have to say. I just want to know if you could take me through the moment when you got the call that you were going to be inducted, and, you know, sort of what you were feeling, who the first person you told was.
It's funny that you asked me that, because I'm really not that kind of a person. Like, I think that I was more shocked. I mean, when they called me and told me, I was very, very ecstatically happy, but I don't know if I told anybody for 3 or 4 days. It wasn't something that I picked up the phone and started calling people and saying, hey, I got into the Ring of Honor. Anybody who knows me knows that I spend most of my time trying to fly beneath the radar. Like, I don't really like a lot of attention. Actually, this is something that I'm put in positions to speak and do things, but if I had to choose to not to, I probably wouldn't. So like I said, I'm so ecstatic about this Ring of Honor thing, but I'm much more happy about getting to spend time with my teammates, to the point to where I wish we could do it at least once a year, because I think that we all, when you go through battles together, you grow together, you learn together. And I can honestly tell you there's times in my life where I go through things, and one of my teammates, old teammates, is the people who I still reach out to. So that camaraderie is probably means way more to me than the ring. Not that the ring doesn't mean anything to me, don't get me wrong. I'm excited about that, but being able to be back here with the Liberty, and also to have the opportunity to talk to the new Liberty players. Back to your question, I think this team really emulates us. I think Sabrina represents Spoon. I think that your 2 guard represents VJ down the line. You have Sammy, you have Rebecca that do the things I did, and then you have a Sue Wicks and Natasha Howard, and you have like a Kim Hampton and your big blonde-headed post player. So I think that I heard them talking earlier. Defensive end of the floor, they have to play much harder to be successful. You can't let the ball move like it's been moving on their team, because if you do in this league against Taurasi and Skylar Diggins and Brittany Griner, you're putting yourself at a deficit, and it's going to be hard to dig out of. But I think that team has all the talent to be really, really good. And they're right there.
So I really appreciate that. I also want to know, right as Dee was coming down the stairs, you sort of had a little exchange with her and sort of, I guess, congratulated her on her performance. You know, what did you see from Dee, and how do you think, you know, she will grow into being someone who will embody, you know, what the city is like?
I think that Dee is definitely one of the players on this team that embodies the New York state of mind, that embodies that hard work, because effort and energy is something that is hard to coach. To me, she brings that workhorse mentality to this team. And sometimes those players don't always show up in the stats. Tonight, she shot the ball well, but Dee to me is a player that even when she doesn't shoot the ball well, she's doing enough defensively to stay on the court. And I don't think you're going to win in this league if you don't get stops. If people score that easy, you're not going to win in this league. So I think that one of the things for her, and I think it's about young players figuring out who's going to take control, who's going to imprint their identity on the team, and who can handle that responsibility. Because every player wants to be great, but every player can't handle it when their stat line isn't good and the media is in here asking them the questions that star players have to answer. Everybody wants to be that player until they're put in those positions to take those lumps. And I think that Sabrina is a player that will be able to do that. She'll be able to put this team on her back and do a lot of great things, but I think that it starts with her. Everything starts with her. Whether it's offensively, she gets the offense started going, it starts with her, because when she excels, everybody else's confidence rises. So I think when she's playing I won't say passive. I don't know what their defensive or offensive plans are. I don't ever want to sound like I'm insulting them. This is just me from the outside. When she plays, when she's aggressive and she comes out and she has a scores mentality, I think it makes it easier for everybody else. When she's not being aggressive, it's easy for people to help from other places. So I think that once they figure it out, they're going to be fine.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Hey, coach, and I'm gonna say that because I saw you walking up with the final book, so
Uh-huh.
I still got that in there. I wanted to ask about something that you said, and it's also something similar to what Becky Hammond said when she entered the Ring of Honor. And well, two things. One is that Teaspoon and BJ in particular really helped mold their team, Forged by Fire. And the other that Becky Hammond, I believe, said, New York made me. And you said something similar. Can you expound upon what that process was while you were here together in the league?
Okay, I'd say that process was when I came to the New York Liberty, I came from the ABL, not unlike all the other players. I had been a pro, and I was the first year pro in that league. And I'm talking Katie Smith, Don Staley, all those players were in that league. When I came over to New York, I was just a scorer. I was a shooter. I could score, but I wasn't very tough. I had to learn how to be tough in that gym, because I'm telling you, when we went for layups, Spoon them was knocking us down. They were running us into walls, but I didn't know anybody. So I just went home and Becky went home. And one day we got on the bus and we walked up to each other and we were covered in bruises. Our arms, we had bruises everywhere. And we was like, man, we just saw each other, and it was a moment and we just slapped hands and said, we got to stick together. Right. So our practices was so competitive. Very seldom did the first team beat us in practice. First of all, it was me, Becky, and on the second team when I first got there. So our practices was so competitive. Once we made that team and the final roster was set, they just welcomed us with open arms. We had to prove that we was tough enough. And I think the way Spoon put it to me, if I'm going to battle with you, I want to know that you're going to fight. So they forged by fire is what Becky's talking. We had to really learn as a finesse player. I had to learn how to play like Spoon them, and not just on the court. Another thing that I can tell you that Spoon was a catalyst in is we didn't leave any players behind. We had a player named Bernadette Ngoisia that came from Africa that didn't have much. Everybody on our team would for the first 2 weeks, we put our per diems together and took her shopping and bought her clothes. So we were that close. We didn't let anybody be left behind, but there was also a level of accountability that we held each other to, that these players today are too soft to take. So when you make a mistake and Spoon walks up and yells at you, we had our own rule. If you got beat off the dribble more than 2 times, you had to sub yourself out because you're hurting the team. So Spoon or VJ get mad at you and they just yell at you and tell you, sit down, you killing us. And as a competitor, they're not hurting my feelings because I'm already killing myself. Like, you are hurting the team, get out the game. But most people can't take that. I don't listen to what she said or how she said it. I needed to listen to what she said. And I think we learned that as a team and took that in stride. And that made us a better team because Spoon and VJ them had the ability to lead us how they led. They didn't have to make a lot of concessions for us. And when you put a leader in a position like that, I think it gives your team more of a possibility to excel.
And final one for me, it's 25 seasons of the WNBA, 25 seasons of the New York Liberty, but still the only, as I remember correctly, the only original franchise has yet to win a championship. So what's that 2.0 of that New York grit that you think is in the future of this franchise?
Well, I just think that it comes from, you don't get great. It doesn't happen overnight. You have to take the wins in stride. You can't get too high from them and you can't get too low from the losses. You have to understand that building something goes like this. And if you stay down here feeling sorry for yourself for too long, you just keep going down. So I think that that's one of the biggest things that I think for this team, they have to learn from these losses and not let them stay with them for too long, but they have to make quick adjustments and move to the next task. One thing for me as a coach, I hate recoaching the same things over and over and over again, because as a coach, you know, you're never going to be successful if I'm having to go back and reteach things 25 times in the course of practice. So I think that they have all of the tools. It's just going to be a matter of staying consistent and not getting too high or too low and letting little bitty problems. When you're down here, it's easy for problems to get in your team and circulate, because very few people can keep it together when things are not going their way. If they can fight themselves out of the dark spots and get back into that winning category, they'll be fine.
Last question, Lois Elfner.
Back in the day, the Phoenix Mercury were always a ferocious opponent for the Liberty. Those were always super well-attended games. And in fact, you were still playing for the Liberty when Diana Taurasi made her debut in the WNBA. So did you and some of your former teammates have flashbacks while you were watching this, even though Taurasi is the only remaining person on the Mercury? Did you remember or talk about those incredible moments that you all had when you played the Mercury?
Absolutely, Lois. And it's good to hear your voice, first of all. But absolutely, we had those moments. We were sitting over there talking, but it probably wasn't like you're thinking. I was saying, dang, she didn't miss those shots when she played against us. That's kind of how I thought about it. But then you saw her come back out in the second half. You know, Diana's great. She's not going to miss those shots if you keep giving them to her, if she gets to keep taking them. So there was definitely a lot of talk about that over there. But you know, back when Michelle Timms and those guys played for the Phoenix Mercury, we had an unbelievable rivalry with them. And when they had sellouts when we went there, and we had sellouts when they came to us. So we did definitely have some talk over there on the sideline, and Diana's definitely given all of us headaches at some point in time. Now I wish that if I didn't have this bum knee, I'd be trying to get out there to get some of that back from her.
Did you see some former fans that you remember from back in the day when you came in the arena, or had a chance to engage with anyone? Did you see some of the loyal fans that have now made the trip to Brooklyn that we used to see all the time at the Garden?
Yes, I saw a lot of them, Lois. And I told you, when you know that I was like, I hung out with the fans. So I was never excited when I came around, because they was like, oh, that's just C-Rob. But definitely most of the fans I saw tonight, the ones that I knew exactly who they were, and I did have conversations with a lot of them.
Excellent, thank you.
Great. Thanks to you, Rob, and thank you all for joining. We'll send a copy of the recording shortly.
Thank you.
Thank you.